All right. So, 8 months ago, my little family of three went on vacation. When it was time to come home, only two of us got on the plane. My husband of 5 years would not be returning with us this time. While on vacation, it was discovered that he would rather commit suicide than return home. He decided to stay with his parents to get the help that he needed. It took every ounce of strength I had not to cry in front of my screaming 3-year-old. She just wanted to know where her daddy was and why he wasn't coming home with us. I wanted to scream right along with her. It wasn't the first time that I had acted as a single parent. No, that comes with the territory when you have a spouse with mental illness. This time it was different, though. I knew it would be up to me to find a new place to live, return to school to finish my degree, find a job to support us, and to raise my daughter completely alone this time. For us, this battle against mental illness began the day after we were married. All of a sudden, the man that had 2 jobs and went to school full-time couldn't handle getting out of bed in the mornings. He was terrified to be alone, and simple things such as walking through a crowded room caused severe panic. He suffered from debilitating depression, anxiety, and panic attacks, and these debilitating disabilities severely altered the way he acted and the way he lived his life. As a spouse who loved and cared for him, it altered my life as well. I couldn't just make a quick run to the store. We couldn't we couldn't go out for a night of fun on the town. I had to strategically plan where we sat in church, and friends and family members couldn't drop by unannounced. Our daughter knew the word anxiety and understood its meaning by age 2. Many people tried to tell us it was a choice, that he chose to be depressed or to have panic attacks or to have anxiety. This only added to the problem, making my husband feel ashamed of his disability and in his competency to solve the problem on his own. In our experience, his thoughts definitely worsened his condition, but they didn't cause it. There were times when we gained some ground on this battle against mental illness as we found medications that helped and counselors that aided in his healing. But because of the stigma and side effects of some of these resources, my husband never relied on them consistently. This led up to right before our summer vacation when the panic attacks got worse. We scrambled to find solutions, even getting assistance from the Family and Medical Leave Act. But everything we tried amounted to too little, too late. It was like putting a Band-Aid on a wound that clearly needed stitches. Our story is not unique. According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, in 2013, approximately 43.8 million adults, which is 18.5% of the adult population in the U.S., had a mental illness of some kind. With almost 1 in 5 people suffering, it's very likely that your life has been touched by mental illness of some kind, either from your own experience or through a friend or loved one. With such personal implications for all of us, we need to understand the risks that mental illness poses to families. In one study that looked at the effects of parental depression and anxiety on early childhood behaviors, researchers found that the mental illness of the parents, mothers specifically, impacts the development of behavioral and mental health problems in their children. The study also demonstrated how disorders can be perpetuated and passed from parents to their children. Mental illness also impacts our societies. In a study conducted in Spain, researchers concluded that millions of euros were spent each year on direct medical costs, such as medications and inpatient care, in response to mental illness. Several million were also spent on outpatient care. Other costs included the cost of caregiving, the loss of a job or decreased productivity at work, death, and disability. While those implications were specific to Spain, they're similar across the world. In yet another study, researchers found that individuals with more serious mental illness may have a hard time meeting their daily care needs and finding or keeping a job. This leads to financial hardship and reliance on other sources for things like transportation and medical costs, such as Medicaid or Medicare. These costs are taking their toll in our world economies and finances. It's shocking that with such great repercussions, people who suffer like my husband are not getting the help they need. According to the World Health Organization, 76 to 85% of the individuals with mental illness in low and middle income countries and 35 to 50% of individuals with mental illness in high income countries are not receiving treatment. With mental illness being so prevalent and the effects so grievous to families and communities, why are there so many people not getting the help that they need? Why does such a prevalent threat to personal, family, and community health and happiness seem to be shoved to the sidelines? Why does speaking about such mental illness seem to be a taboo of sorts? It was the negative side effects and connotations of helpful resources that kept my own husband from continuing to receive the help that could have prevented the disintegration of my own family. If nothing else, this demonstrates the fault in our society that must be fixed. We must bring attention to this threat that brings anguish, pain, and unnecessary burden to all whose lives it touches. Those who suffer must educate those of us who don't, and families can turn their crisis into hope like one family did with the Emily effect. We don't need a Band-Aid that will cause more problems in the long run. We need far-reaching solutions for the future, such as community acceptance and support, improvements in medication, more access to counseling, and education on alternative solutions, such as cognitive behavioral therapy. As you may or may not be aware, there are two acts currently going through Congress that would help put focus on these needs. The first is H.R. 2646, or the Helping Families in Mental Health Crisis Act of 2015, which replaces the 2013 version that did not pass. The second is S. 1945, or the Mental Health Reform Act of 2015. These acts would place emphasis on things like screening and early intervention, community-based systems of care, enhancing the behavioral health workforce, innovation to develop new evidence-based programs, integration of health and behavioral health care, enforcement of parity and coverage between health and behavioral health services, incentives for assisted outpatient treatment rather than mandates, elevation of behavioral health in the federal government, including increased coordination of services, suicide prevention based on the Garrett Lee Smith Act reauthorization, and so much more. Congress must take serious consideration of those acts that have the potential to bring the much-needed reform and to better prepare us in the battle against mental illness. We can take a stance and let our own congressmen know of its importance. This battle that we are waging against mental illness cannot be won on the individual or even the family level. But as we stand united as individuals, families, communities, and governments together, we won't just win the battle, we will win the war. Any questions?
So the policy, what was the name of that policy again?
So there are two acts right now that are going through. The first is the Congress thing for the bill is H.R. 2646, but it's called the Helping Families in Mental Health Crisis Act of 2015.
Okay.
And then the second one is S. 1945, and it's also called the Mental Health Reform Act of 2015. And those are two of the ones that are going through right now. But one of them was, there was a similar one in 2013, and it was rejected by Congress. So, you know, they've made some changes. They're hoping it'll pass this time, but it's important that we, you know, get involved and let them know how important it is. Any other questions?
Tiffany, is there a like a list of what is it, like warning signs? I mean, I know when you reach like high anxiety and really low depression, that, you know, that's like red flag right there. But would you say that there's some like smaller signs that we could look for?
You know, especially in teens, I think just as, you know, if they're kind of pulling away and kind of keeping to themselves, or, you know, I know for me, I have depression as well, and that was one thing for me, is that I would kind of draw to myself, and I seemed to hide more and internalize things more, and I would not want to talk about it. And so I think that's a big warning sign in and of itself, is if something just seems off and they don't want to talk about it, that may be you know, something that you need to look at. But as far as the panic, it kind of perpetuates, it keeps going, it's building. And so to start seeing the symptoms where they start fearing to do daily things, or they don't find joy in it, those are other symptoms that, you know, you may want to start paying attention to. And there are lots of lists out there, but those are the top ones for us that we saw.
Thank you.
So Tiffany, I have a question about the policy that you said, the bill that's going through that's supposed to help families. What is their focus, or you know, how do they want to help families? Is it just helping them deal with an individual that's struggling in their family, or what is their goal in helping families?
Well, like a lot of it, I think a lot of it is just bringing attention to it. But like they talked about, screening and early intervention, which is huge for families, because as they get into later stages, it's very difficult for, especially on the family. It's hard to keep that family together. So that's a big part of it. They're trying to do more community-based systems of care, and so that's another big part that would help families. And also the helping to have more coverage with mental health problems. There's been some laws in the past that have helped that, but there still needs to be some more work in that area. It's still pretty limited. So they're trying to work on that.
That's awesome. I'm glad they've included the family in that and not just taken it as an individual problem. So that's pretty interesting.
All right, that's been 10 minutes.
Okay. Awesome. The only thing I would mention, I think we forgot, Tiffany, but I think we're supposed to introduce ourselves at the very beginning. Did I read that right? So that was Tiffany.
I'm Tiffany. I'm always so good at that. I'm Tiffany, and my topic was mental illness.
Awesome. There you go. Too funny. Okay, so Annette, looks like you're up.
All right. When I was first married, I worked at Stanley Tools on their phones. My boss at the time was so excited that her daughter had decided to move in with her boyfriend. I asked why her daughter was not getting married instead. Her explanation was shocking but not surprising, seeing how the world views marriage. She said that this was a practice run to see if her daughter and boyfriend were capable as being a couple. She gave me an example that if her daughter did not like the way her boyfriend brushed his teeth, he could still get out of the relationship without, or she could still get out of the relationship without the messiness of divorce. I eventually left the conversation and said no more about it. Today, if faced with the same scenario, I would speak up and share my feelings that I've learned over my 24 years of marriage and this empirical research that I have found on the ideas of marriage and cohabitation. Cohabitation is so glamorized in movies and popular culture. Some researchers even believe cohabitation is good for a relationship. Just like my boss suggested, it was a way to get to know each other's idiosyncrasies without committing to marriage. One researcher put it this way: cohabitation serves as sort of a screening device, weeding out matches that are not desirable. This way, potential mates are able to save time and money as they look for a spouse more suited to them. But when researchers looked at cohabitating couples over a 40-year period, they found an interesting fact. Relationships that start with cohabitation and then decide to get married had a decrease in satisfaction in their marriage. The researchers assumed that as society became more accepting of cohabitating relationships, couples would choose that lifestyle, but also be more satisfied. The research, however, concluded that people who select cohabitation before marriage are more likely to choose uncertain or chancier partners than people selecting marriage partners, thus leaving the couple less satisfied than people that choose marriage. This idea that it's more economically sound to cohabitate is more public, or as more public assistance is offered to single mothers. This comes from the idea that because of disparities in the pay scale for females in the workplace, welfare and cohabitation is a better option than being married. This is also found to be false. In a longitudinal study of 4,205 partners who were either married after cohabitation, cohabitation only, or had cohabitated with several other people, the partners that have married and never cohabitated had an increase of wealth accumulation, regardless of race or ethnicity. Children not being affected by cohabitation is another argument. This too was found false. The research shows there is a direct effect on children's learning when a mother is cohabitating with someone other than their biological father. It also showed that cohabitating abilities of children are lessened. This may be due to the fact that there is no stable family situation at the home. Children need to feel secure at home before they can be successful in school. In homes where the mother is in another cohabitating relationship without the biological father, the children struggle at home and at school. In all, children in cohabitation to biological parent families score significantly lower on cognitive tests than children in a married to biological parent families. They also exhibit sufficiently less self-control. A research stated in 2012, many social scientists now affirm that marriage is of great advantage to the well-being of men and women in a myriad of ways. In assuring happiness, a lasting marriage proves more beneficial physically, mentally, and economically than exercise programs, mental treatments, physical or therapy sessions, or financial investment. I wish I could go back in time and tell my boss how I really felt about marriage compared to cohabitation, but I cannot. We can, however, be an advocate for marriage. We can support the healthy marriage incentive put out by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. This incentive offers grants that produce public advertising campaigns on the value of healthy marriages. It also includes education in the high schools on the value of marriage, relationship skills, and budgeting. This funding supports marriage mentoring programs and relationship skills that include parenting skills, financial management, conflict resolution, and job and career advancement. I believe in marriage. It has been one of the hardest, most rewarding experiences of my life. Yes, my husband does things that bother me, and yes, I do things that bug him. But in the long run, we are in the union 100%. There is no easy way out. We are raising 4 children to be honest, hardworking individuals that one day will have families of their own. As I look back over my 24 years of marriage, my husband and I have grown closer together through the good and especially the bad times. We are stronger because we choose to honor our marriage covenant. Thank you. Any questions?
What was that policy that you talked about?
It is healthy marriage incentive.
And the focus of that was education mainly, just education,
Yes,
or
education, and I think it fits in really well with our major because it gives money to develop programs or workshops to help tell people more about marriage and marriage skills, different marriage skills, and personal skills as well.
so that's a government program that they're using tax dollars for?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So how effective is it being? Because when I tried to look into that, it seemed like they weren't getting quite as much funding as they've been promised, or there still was a great need. How effective are you finding in your research?
There is still a great need, and the way they put it is if you look at, they get I think it's $24 million, but if you look at it as a whole, that's not very much. They have about 60 programs across the United States that they're funding, and you can look up and see how much they spend on each one. But in all, that's not very much for the United States and how big we are. So, like one thing per state, a little over one. They fund.
Who is that healthy marriage incentive geared towards? Is it geared towards like newly married couples, couples that want to get married, teenagers?
Well, they just produce advertising to show that marriages are healthy because I don't think, or I know that cohabitation isn't, it's glamorized, and so it seemed like it's a good thing. So they're trying to get the word out that having a committed relationship would be better. But it goes into the high schools and talks to them. And then it also has marriage programs. So it can be it's for any part of marriage or family.
Okay, that was 9 minutes, so pretty good. All right, Lisa, you're up.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Tyra, and I'd like to thank you for being here today. A psychologist at Iowa State University, Douglas Gentile, told CNN, "The first study I began in 1999 to basically try to show video game addiction isn't a real thing." And it turns out I was wrong. For clarification, I'll be using video games and internet or computer games interchangeably, as I feel they are the same thing. A few years ago, I took a class in which we were to give up something that would better our lives. I chose to give up games on my phone. So I deleted the Candy Crush app and a few other apps, game apps that I played to pass the time. And whenever I had time to kill, I would open those games on my phone and play them. I was amazed at how much time I actually spent on my phone. I would also give my phone to my children to play while we were waiting for a doctor's appointment or for a concert or a play to start. The ease of gaming and the satisfaction you feel from succeeding in your quest keeps you playing. I know my children would play video games, either on the TV or the computer, all day if I allowed them. Do you play video games? Do you allow your children to play video games? A study published in Computers and Human Behavior found that children that are addicted to their internet games are more likely to have a good relationship with their games and have a poor relationship with their parents. If you search game addictions online, you will be met with a slew of web findings. A few sites that stood out to me were www.addictionrecover.org and www.video-game-addiction.org. These sites can help anyone find out if their child or loved one has an addiction. In 2015, a study of college students was published in Cyber Psychology, Behavior, and Social Networking. It showed that video game addiction negatively impacted their college engagement. They stopped applying themselves in their courses, which resulted in lower GPAs. They were also found to have higher drug and alcohol violations. Video game addiction causes low social competence, low self-esteem, and loneliness. The New York Times said, it is now the law of the United States that video games are a creative, intellectual, emotional form of expression and engagement, as fundamentally human as any other. They went on to compare video games to books, plays, and movies of the past. A Supreme Court judge ruled that video games are protected under the First Amendment and that sales of certain games cannot be banned. Many of the games that teenagers and adults are addicted to are fighting games. VideoGameAddiction.org has noted why these types of games are addicting. They don't have an end. The ever-changing nature of the game keeps the players playing. They don't want to stop. This is like when I was a child and I played Tetris. As long as I completed each level, I could keep going. If there was no end, then you can continue. How many times you called your child, sibling, or spouse and told them that it was time to go, only to hear, "Just a few more minutes, I need to finish my game"? This is a problem. If you visit www.addictionrecover.org and www.videogameaddiction.org, they have posted the ways that you can tell someone is addicted. They withdraw from their family. They tell lies about what they do all day. Some act out in anger when they are not in contact with their gaming devices. This is not just a teenage problem. Many adults are also addicted to gaming. I've seen marriages end because of it. We cannot and should not sit idly by while video and computer games consume the lives of our loved ones. Thank you. Any questions?
How easy do you think it is to fall into an addiction? Does that make sense?
How easy to fall into an addiction for video games? If you find something enjoyable, then you're more likely to continue doing it. And for video games, computer, just stuff on the internet, it's so readily available because computers are in practically every household because we use them for work or for school. So you can just turn it on. If you have a phone, that's just something you can, if it's next to your bed, you can just roll over and touch and grab. So it's actually, an addiction is very, very easy to gain. Let me see if I can find this. One of the websites, it said one way to find out that you're addicted is if you get up in the middle of the night just to check it. And I know some nights when I can't fall asleep, I will just go on my phone. I'll open up Facebook or my email. Of course, that's because I can't fall asleep. But other people, it's habit. It's just what they do. Did I?
We lost you, Liz.
Uh-oh. Yeah, everybody looked still.
We can hear you. We just can't see your mouth moving.
Okay.
So, to find out if someone is addicted, how do they do that? Do they monitor the child's phone, or is it just signs that they tell you about in that addictionrecovery.org?
There's warning signs, and a lot of it tends to do with grades, if their grade, for kids anyway, if their grades are declining. For an adult, obviously, if their work starts to, they kind of push work aside because, they're in the middle of a game, so they can't go to work, or they go to work later because they have to finish a game. So there's definitely some visual signs that you can see.
Well, I know my daughter, who is going to be 11 next month, she plays on, what is it called, Snapchat, just for those cute little things, and she's on there for hours, changing her face different ways. But it is, and it's addicting. I didn't realize that they said that video games cannot be banned either.
Yeah, that was back in, I think it was 2011, but I haven't, I couldn't see anything more recent that talked about it, because it went to the Supreme Court because they wanted to ban the sale of certain video games to children, and the judge said, oh, nope, it's freedom of speech, so can't do that.
You mentioned that that it impacts marriages and stuff too, and I've seen that. I actually know one couple that ended up getting divorced over it. It was such a big deal for them. And do you think it also interrupts relationships from forming?
I think so, because once you are, if somebody is addicted, then they are isolating themselves. They're not going out and socializing. So if you're not socializing, you're not forming relationships. If you are internet gaming, then you probably have a headset and you have your friends online that you communicate with. But those aren't real people.
So I'll just add to one of the questions there. You said that they're protected by the First Amendment. So what, if anything, is there any policy or law that requires them to state the information or the what's in the game to give people warnings, like on movies? I know they kind of have on video games, like mature. Is that required by law to have those on there?
I did not look into that.
Okay.
But I'm going to guess that there is some type of requirement because they're on all the games. But that's a good question. I'll have to look that up.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, was that 10 minutes of that? Are we close? Okay. All right, Megan, you're up.
Okay, goodness. Let me just get ready. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Doucette, and I'm going to be talking to you about abortion. Imagine sitting in a room all alone, no one to talk to, no one to share experiences with, and no one to connect with. This is the world without family. With family, we are never alone. No family is perfect, but families change who we are, and they can change our outcome. Families are essential to each and every one of us. I cannot imagine where I would be without my family. My family has taught me so much, and I would not be the person I am today without them. One of the biggest issues that undermine families is abortion. According to different studies on abortion, in the year 2010, there were more than 765,651 abortions, and there were around 14 abortions per 1,000 women. Around 40 million abortions occurred in 2003, around 45 million abortions occurred in 1995, and almost 50% of abortions worldwide were unsafe abortions. Why is abortion such an issue to family, you might ask? The amount of abortions there are each year decreases the amount of live births. This, in turn, decreases the fertility rate and our general population, which can be seen as a decrease in future generations. These issues can be devastating to society and the family unit. If we look at abortion from the opposing view, which is pro-abortion, we will understand why there are millions of them performed each year. Women want to be able to make decisions about their own bodies. Many women do not want to be tied down to a family. However, they do not understand the risks of abortion. Having an abortion can cause complications to the woman as well as future children. Later, pregnancies can end in low birth weight babies, which is a cause for concern. Women can have other complications from abortion, such as damage to their cervix, abdominal bleeding, placenta previa in later pregnancies, and more. Abortion at the federal level can be associated with the court case of Roe v. Wade. This court case allowed for women to have abortions for any reason as long as it was before a certain gestational age. Usually, the limit exists as fetal viability, which is 24 weeks gestation. However, under some new laws, there is a requirement for women to hear and view the fetus through an ultrasound before termination. In Brazil, abortion is only permitted in cases of rape, to save the mother, or capacity to care for the child. Ireland only allows abortion if it is to save a woman's life. In the Dominican Republic, abortion is not permitted at all. The United States has one of the most relaxed abortion laws, which allows abortion without any restrictions except for gestational age. However, many politicians want the gestational age to be raised. So what can we do to limit abortions? At any and every level, we need to raise awareness of the adverse effects of abortion on the mother, the future children, and the future of our population. We need to raise awareness about the age of viability. We need to fight for the rights of the unborn. Any questions?
So Megan, right now the limit's 24 weeks. That's the legal. They can't really do it past that.
Yeah, exactly. In some states, it's like 20 weeks. You can't do it past that. I think that's in like Nebraska and some other states, but the main time is 24 weeks.
So each state can set their own limit.
And that's for like any reason. If it's for other reasons, it can go down to as low as 12 weeks, which is better, but...
So, so it's on the state level then? There's not a national or federal...
So the national one is like 24, but states can vary. Any other questions?
Is there an emotional side too to having abortion? If a woman has an abortion, is there like an emotional side that goes along with that too? It seemed like
Yeah, and I
you
think,
mentioned a lot of physical things, but I was
yeah,
wondering about the emotional.
and I think that's a lot of the reason why they have, in some places, like the woman has to listen to the fetus, because it kind of does, like, it goes towards your emotions and can really affect you.
So can individual states outlaw abortion, or do they have to permit it?
I believe they have to permit it. They can obviously kind of create different laws that decrease the amount, but they have to allow it.
The requirement for the ultrasound before, was that here in the United States?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's good.
You had mentioned that some was it senators or something, they're trying to lengthen the time of when you
Yes.
can get an abortion. Do they have a like a set, how old do they want the fetus to be?
I have heard different things, but the highest number I've heard is like 32 weeks, and that's like pretty much already like a full-term baby. So that's just kind of like a little scary.
Yeah, I remember reading somewhere, I don't know which class it was, but I read 38 weeks, and
Oh my
that's
gosh.
40 weeks is full term, and
Yeah, it's ranges between 37 and 40.
yeah,
So that's crazy. And if we're going by
infanticide.
37 weeks, that's 5 weeks early. I was 5 weeks early, so it's crazy.
Yeah, my oldest was born at 38 weeks. That's why I'm like, and he was 8 pounds too. You know, it's a full-size baby.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a tiny little peanut.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's
Because they
crazy.
can't survive outside the womb, and that's the concerning part about it, is that they want to like raise it, and already it's at 24 weeks, and that's the time when a baby can like officially like survive. Like they may not be able to survive, but they have that possibility.
Yeah, my oldest was born at 30 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
And
So that's like,
yeah, so he's 21 now, and he's doing just fine and went on a mission and stuff. So that's just amazing. They want to raise it to 30 weeks.
yeah.
All right, we're about 8 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, I guess I'm the last. Okay, so I'm Melanie Christensen, and my topic is out of wedlock births. It was a beautiful sunny afternoon. I was in the house preparing dinner for my family when the sounds of playful laughter coming from the backyard caught my attention. As I peeked outside to see what was going on, I saw a sight that warmed my heart. My husband, mitt on one hand and baseball in another, was playing a game of catch with our 9-year-old son. The look on my child's face showed how much this activity meant to him. I realized that it wasn't simply the game of catch that was causing him to beam with excitement, but rather the fact that his father was present and spending time with him. As I reflect back on my own experience growing up with a father in my home, I too have fond memories of spending time with my dad. My father taught me how to ride a bike and later how to drive a car. Dad often took the family out for ice cream and for picnics in the canyon. He was a hard worker and did all that he could to provide for our family. We were not rich by any means, but Dad made sure that we had what we needed and we never went without. Dad was always there when I needed him. He was my protector, my hero, and my biggest fan. Unfortunately, not every child has the opportunity to create these special memories with a father who is present in their lives. It is becoming more socially acceptable and popular for women to become mothers out of wedlock. According to childtrends.org, 41% of all children are born to unwed mothers, and nearly half of all children live in single-mother homes with women who have never been married. The website for the National Father Initiative refers to this as a father crisis in our country. Often when we think of unwed mothers, we think of teenagers. However, FamilyFacts.org show that the highest rates of out-of-wedlock births are to women in their 20s. This means that women in this demographic are delaying or foregoing marriage while still proceeding with motherhood. In our society, it appears that marriage is no longer a requirement for parenthood. Why does it matter? Why do children need a father in the home, and why should we care? Fathers who are present in their children's lives have a profound impact on their child's development and well-being. Research shows that children who have a father present in their lives tend to do better in school and are less likely to drop out of high school. Children raised without a father are more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol. Girls who are raised without their fathers are far more likely to be sexually active and are at increased risk of becoming teen mothers. Boys who are raised without their fathers are more likely to engage in delinquent behavior and criminal acts. Children from single mother homes are also more likely to live in poverty. In fact, half of all households in poverty are headed by single women. Married couples are significantly less likely to live in poverty than single mothers, even when education levels are similar. Poverty is an issue that concerns all of us. Families living in poverty are dependent on help from the government to provide for their families. This assistance comes in the form of food stamps, public housing, Medicaid, and daycare. The Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Program, or TANF, was created and federally funded to ease the burden of poverty on families by providing cash assistance to low-income parents and their children. However, many argue that this program is actually anti-family and promotes single parenthood. Robert Rector, a leading authority on poverty, welfare programs, and immigration in America, argues that this program has not been effective at eliminating poverty, but rather has created more dependency on government assistance. Rector states that marriage is our greatest weapon against child poverty. Perhaps government and states have been focusing on the wrong issues. Rector proposes that states reduce marriage penalties in receiving assistance. He suggests that currently mothers qualify for more assistance if they remain single, which has a negative impact on marriage. Rector also stresses the importance of education for at-risk populations and teaching the benefits and advantages of marriage. He states, quote, "To develop this understanding, government and key institutions of civil society should establish a broad education campaign in low-income areas. This campaign should be similar to current efforts to convince young Americans of the importance of staying in school or to inform the public about the health risks of smoking. While the cost of such an effort would be small, its impact could be considerable." Close quote. There are many organizations that are working to educate the public on the benefits of marriage in the lives of children and families. One such organization is United Families International, which advocates for families on international and local levels. At a recent UN Commission on the Status of Women, Dr. Tim Rarick, on behalf of United Families International, gave a speech titled "Raising the Standard for Fathers." In his speech, Dr. Rarick, speaking of the complementary differences of mothers and fathers, stated, quote, "Because of their distinctive temperaments and capacities, males and females each bring to a family unique perspectives and experiences. Dads think and act differently than moms. A mother and a father is the most ideal scenario for raising children." Close quote. According to the United Families International website, Dr. Rarick's presentation on fathers was met with a standing ovation, suggesting that there are many organizations from various countries who are hungry for pro-family messages. We may not have the opportunity to speak at a UN conference, but we can look for opportunities to speak out in our own communities. The UFI website has information for local chapters by state, where concerned individuals can keep up to date on issues affecting families in their communities. We have to speak up. The world needs to know that the popular voice isn't always the right voice. Families do matter. Children deserve to be raised in a family with a father and a mother, and we can be a voice for families. I ask each of you to take a stand when it comes to marriage and parenthood. Let us stand with like-minded individuals and align ourselves with organizations that share our values. We can encourage policymakers and state congressmen to focus on families and educating on the benefits of marriage in the lives of children. Each of us can seek to educate those around us by sharing articles that promote motherhood, fatherhood, and family. Social media is a wonderful platform to share these messages. Most parents want what is best for their children and have a desire to raise healthy, happy, and well-adjusted children. Our best chance for this outcome is raising children within the bonds of marriage. A healthy marriage benefits both the mother and father and strengthens their ability to be effective parents. Marriage also provides the stability that children so desperately need. Many feel that marriage is outdated or obsolete, but we need to promote marriage for our children, our families, and for society. We need to teach that fathers are not optional. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. Is there like any statistics on how many unwed mothers there are, and then the fathers like living, like cohabitating with them, or?
Yeah, I don't have direct statistics, but a lot of them are cohabitating with the father. And like Annette was saying, even having dad and mom in a cohabitating relationship doesn't have the benefits for kids. And so, but yeah, I can't remember the exact statistics, but 41% of all kids are being born to single mothers. So that's a pretty high statistic.
For sure.
Now, are there, I know there are like tax breaks and stuff for people who have children, but are there any tax breaks or any incentives to be married?
I am not sure of that. That would be a good thing to research. I'll have to look into that, and if I find it, I'll post it on the message board. Yeah.
I can help with answering that one. You get your child, you do get a tax break for being married, and because you get filed jointly, and then also you get a tax break for how many kids you have and stuff.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But even with that, they don't make as much money. They found that they're not as economically secure because they're just spending all the time. In families, they try to work together. But I loved your talk. I didn't realize how close we were in kind of the same situation. But did they say anything about having the fathers in the lives of children if the mom is either having him part of their life, even if they don't decide to get married?
Yeah, there are benefits to that. I think you get the most benefit when you have mom and dad in the home. But right now it's kind of interesting because the government, President Obama, is backing kind of a father initiative. I think it's, anyway, the government has a website that you can go to, and he has really kind of pushed fathers to be more involved in their kids' lives, and he has a pledge on there where fathers can pledge to be more active in their kids' life. And so there are benefits to that as well. However, I think it's interesting to note that President Obama is not stressing marriage. He's just stressing fathers get involved in your lives. And so while that does have some benefit, the most benefit comes when you have a mother and a father in the home who are actively involved in the kids' lives.
Okay, you've reached 10 minutes.
All right. Okay.
Aww.
Good. I think are we?
Okay. Well, I have a comment actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know we are over 10 minutes, but you mentioned that women in their 20s seem to have, I guess they're the biggest demographic that has children when they're single.
Mm-hmm.
And I read for my psychology class last night, one of our articles we had to read kind of followed kids from when they were 3 through in their 20s. And they found that for the children whose parents weren't helping in the classroom past preschool, those girls kind of had babies by the time they were 20.
Oh my
so I was
word.
kind of wondering if like parent involvement with education might have something to do with that.
Wow, I haven't researched that at all, but I think that is an interesting thing to look at. I think family example definitely plays in. You have a single mom, and I've read that single moms tend to raise kids who become single parents themselves. But yeah, the actively being involved in their education, I haven't researched that all to see what connections there are. But that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, your talk just kind of reminded me of it. So
awesome.
For your speech.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I would love to, if you think about it, was it an article that you read?
Yeah, it was just for our further research stuff. I can copy it and send it to you.
Yeah, would you? I would love to read it.
Is that Psych
really
201?
It is. Did you read it too?
Yeah, I was just thinking like it fits so closely with what we've been talking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, if you think about it, I'd love to read it.
So, yeah, I actually pulled it open. So I'll just copy it and email it to you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, well, I think everybody did awesome. I really appreciate everybody's efforts and preparation. I think you all did a great job.
So thanks, ladies.
Thanks. All right, I'm going to stop this and then we can drop out.